If I'm out of ammo, am I gonna go, hold on, Mr. Bad Guy, hold on, okay, I'm gonna reload, okay, now we can play. I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I would suggest that movement is life, right? Absolutely. Standing still, fat, dumb, and happy is death, right? Movement is life. Hey guys, Adam Winch here with Defenders USA, and I'm with
Dan,
and we're gonna say law enforcement, okay? So we've got a ninja over here and the guy I wanna grow up to be, but we wanna talk a little bit about movement. So talking about moving with a gun and shooting with a gun if you had to, and let's say you had to move towards something to shoot at it and literally shoot while in movement, which I think is a necessary fundamental skill for any of us who carry a gun defensively, right? We don't just always stand static on a range shooting gun. Sometimes you actually have to move through people, through things, or just get closer to them to make a truly good shot, can we say? Absolutely. A legally, ethically, morally righteous shot, because maybe it's so far away you can't take that shot or you're afraid to, but in the process of moving, maybe you need to shoot. So let's talk movement for a second. So you guys can't see it, there's targets right behind the camera here, but we're gonna kind of run through how we do this, and what Dan does might be completely different than what I do. So pick and pull, learn from an expert over here, pick and pull, see what you think, and let's try it out. All right, so let's say this, let's say we're back here. Now let's say I'm going to my target. If I need to pull this gun and move towards the target, not only am I going to be on target, I'm going to be off the trigger if if I don't think I'm going to shoot. But for me, if I want to take a really good precise shot, I'm not just clumping my way to the target, right? Because if I just clump my way to the target, if you guys see it, if I'm just clumping my way to the target, the gun's moving too. So I want to stabilize from, say, the waist or really the hips up. Think of it as your Cadillac suspension system. I want to really allow the lower portion to absorb all movement, recoil, whatever, where I want my upper body to be more stable and solid. So I let everything below the hips get kind of squishy, right? Cadillac suspension system, where up top gets solid. And then two, as I move, and I don't know if you can see this in the camera, as I move forward, I want to just generally take smaller steps. So let me go this way. Let me go this way. So I want to take smaller steps. It's really small steps, and I keep my feet closer together, and I just move them out just barely an inch or two beyond the toe of my back foot, and it's more of a heel strike roll to the toe, heel strike roll to the toe. If I take big steps when I hit, if you notice, it drops the gun. So smaller steps, really engaging the hips and the knees, allows the gun to stay more stable. So that's one way to do it. There are other people that say just stand up and walk. Hey, that works too, if you can stay precise and on target with your gun. It can be hard to do, right? So watch, let me run through this. I'm gonna go eyes and ears for a second. I'll run through moving towards my target and shooting, then we'll come back and we'll let Dan fix all the stuff I said. Okay, all right, so here we go. So I'm just gonna move towards my target and notice the movement. Okay, so it's very small steps as I did so. Now, here's another consideration. If you can see my feet, okay? Another consideration, you have to time when you make the shot. Now, when I'm close like I was here, it doesn't really matter. But if I'm having to shoot precisely and accurately, I want to time my shot at a certain point in my stride. For me, if I shoot when I'm beginning to pull the foot, I tend to go off. If I shoot when I'm crossing the ankle, I tend to go off. And if I shoot when I impact, the gun tends to go down. So I found for me the most stable place for me is when my non-moving foot is stable on the ground, fully on the ground, after my foot has crossed, and just as it's beginning to plant down to the ground, if you can see it here, and right here is where bang, and then I touch and move, pull, cross, right before it touches, bang, and I move just like that. Let me show you one more time so you can see it, and I'll do it from a little bit more distance. Okay, so notice I'll time the shooting in movement. So as I pulled, I'm not shooting. As I cross, I'm not shooting. Just as I touch, before the touch, I press through, bang. Notice touch, touch, touch. So I'm shooting just before I touch, but after I crossed. For me, I find that's the most stable split second in time for me than in either the strike, the pull, or the cross. for me, that seems to work well, right? Now, as you get closer, as you see, you can just send it higgly-piggly. If you're pretty good with your grip and everything else, it's gonna go where it's supposed to go. But for precision shooting, that's where I time my shots in my movement. Dan?
I couldn't agree more. Everything looked good. And that's the key, is kind of establishing, I don't want to say rhythm, but getting to that point where you are finding that stable platform.
Yeah.
Because as speed picks up and distance, as you mentioned, if you don't have that set, that's where you're going to start to see a lot of movement.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said rhythm, right? Now, as some of you guys know, I grew up in West Africa, right? I have no rhythm. Yeah, truly white, couldn't dance type thing. I had no rhythm. But I found with guns, I had to develop a little bit of rhythm. I just had to. And I think that's a perfect way to say it, is that rhythm to be able to time the shot and the movement at the same time to maximize accuracy.
Absolutely.
So, do you mind if we watch you do it? I'd be curious to see where your foot strike, your foot movement happens in the trigger pull, and maybe we can chat with these guys about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was interesting, right? As I watched you, when we were a little bit further back, and I'm doing it for the camera's sake, you literally would pull, cross, and just before you would impact the ground, literally when you're the most stable, really your weight is on the ball of the foot on the ground. So your weight's a little bit forward, you would hit your shot right there, then your foot would strike, you would pull, cross, and right before bang. So you did the exact same thing I did, right? We hadn't coordinated this before now. You did the exact same thing. But as you got closer, because it was closer and easier, you started going faster, and it didn't matter when you pulled or shot. You didn't have to time it anymore because it became easier.
Right.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. All right, so let's do this. Let's go back further.
All right.
All right. You want to run a couple from here?
Sure.
All right. You want to go kind of together on it?
Yeah.
And just see where we're at? So, by the way, as we do this, we've also got to kind of time our movement together, because we've got to use our periphery to see where each other's at while we actually also engage the target. So imagine we're both having to move towards something, maybe in a crowded venue, something, but we got to engage while we shoot. So let's just watch what it looks like from here. You ready?
Yep.
On you, brother. Moving. And of course, we both ran out. So I pantomimed just reloading just because I thought I actually had something there, and I went for it and it wasn't there. I don't know if you could see it with Dan, because as he got closer to the target, when he ran out, Dan did something that was awesome. We hadn't even talked about this yet. In the reload, he literally moved offline. So he went this way. He instinctually started to move offline as he reloaded. And here's why. Why would you, when you're out of ammo, let's say I'm out of ammo right now. If I'm out of ammo, am I gonna go, hold on, Mr. Bad Guy, hold on, okay, I'm gonna reload, okay, now we can play. I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I would suggest that movement is life, right? Absolutely. Standing still, fat, dumb, and happy is death, right?Movement is life. So therefore, if you're not already behind cover, if you're gonna go ahead and reload, why not do it on the move until you can, begin to engage. So if you saw Dan's reload, which I thought was gorgeous, right? Movement is life. Just like sometimes moving while shooting is important, sometimes in fixing a malfunction, reloading, everything else. If you're not static behind cover already, let's get offline from where bad guy might be. Because let's say Dan was right here. Let's say that's his body space here. If he stands still here and Mr. Bad Guy is trying to put bullets, bombs, knives, baseball bats in his body space, that's a bad day, right? And Christmas is coming up and he wants to go in for Christmas. So getting off that body space while you're doing other things than shooting, I think it was a safe and smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Anything else to add to this?
No, I thought our pace was good too.
Yeah.
With
yeah.
one another.
Yeah. And
just a little communication
too. You used your periphery. He let me know he's moving. I think then I responded too, and we just went to town.
Yeah.
All right, boys and girls, we just want to talk a little bit about movement. And I think this is another skill that we as defenders of life need to learn, is to not just always stand static on a range shooting. Sometimes you got to do it in movement. And I think that's an important skill for the average defender to know.